You may be wondering why there is a blank wall behind me. These are the parties our election this time is offering us in Britain. And I want to go through with you my prediction for this election, but also the significance. Because I think we're going to see the groundswell of something that's not going to bring profound change this time, but it's going to shatter everything, I think, in the next election after this one. This is Benjamin, and that's what this video is about now. First of all, Northern Ireland, there are 18 seats out of the 650, split between, well, there's the Sinn Féin, the Alliance, the DUP, there's others, but I'm not really worried about that, and you're not really British, are you? Sorry, but I mean, we'll take the tax revenue, and if you want to be part of us, as if the majority of you want to be classed as the UK, I mean, it's none of our business, but okay, we'll take the human resources, the natural resources, and the tax revenue, but you don't really have any real effect on our politics. So I'm not really talking about Northern Ireland here, okay? Now, going forward, the Workers' Party. They won a by-election under this fellow Galloway, which, I mean, he's an anti-Semite, he hates Jews, that's his entire platform, basically. And he's stoking and exploiting the Muslim community. I don't think he's going to carry his seat, so their party's gone, and I promise to do a victory dance once he goes, because I'll just be so happy that he goes. Do you want me to record that? Anyway, let's get into the actual parties that are going to be in the Parliament after this is over. So as it stands, the parties have these numbers. The Tories have 344. That's quite a number, but they had more than that. People have defected away from them in the midst of utter nonsense, complacency, incompetence, and filthy binge drinking during Corona. Right? Labour have 205. They were obliterated in the last election, and they've actually taken a couple more people in. Yeah? Yeah, I've got notes. The SNP have 43, but 2 of them have defected to Alba. And this is over progressivist, some of it like genderism nonsense, which they're pushing on people and people don't like. And I'll get to that in a minute. The Lib Dems have 15, which they've taken a couple people from either party over the last few years. Reform have 1, a defector. The Greens have 1, not a defector. Plaid Cymru has 3, they had 1 4, but there was some abusing his wife drama, which, come on, man. Yeah, the Workers' Party. This anti-Semitic, bigot, Jew-hating, pro-Islamic extremist fellow Galloway won an election in a by-election, meaning there was a gap needing to fill, and it was during all this nonsense erupting in the Middle East. And he exploited the Islamic vote. So I promise to do a little dance when he is removed from Parliament in this election. But I probably won't post it on this channel. What is my prediction for these parties? First, I need to explain These parties, what their ideological beliefs are now, do not represent what they were when they were founded and what their names are. Okay? For instance, the Conservatives are not conservatives. They don't conserve anything culturally. They don't promote policies which safeguard the family. They don't promote policies which safeguard art, the opera, music of traditional tastes, or aesthetic. Come on. Can you hear that? Donate to the channel, it'll help me get a better studio. The Tories are not conservatives. They, in the 70s, the 1970s, went in with this neoliberal financier ideology, which is actually socially progressive. It's just obsessed with money also, and not conservative. This is why I'm doing a short video this week. I'm a bit sick. And these Tories of the 1970s and their followers, going forward, they passed policies which enabled the left in the Labour Party, these guys, to manipulate that situation in order to take control of the cultural apparatuses. I'm sure there's a different plural ending for that fancy word, but I don't know it. In any case, they became the elite in the prestige areas of culture, like museums, academics, the media, the arts. And now they have basically taken control of most of our institutions. The right is not in control anymore, and they're losing the notion that they are the status quo, and the Labour Party are the new status quo party. It's looking more and more likely. The Liberal Democrats, they have become basically the anti-nation party. They went from being classical liberals, like I more or less was for a long time, into being globalization extremists who support international agencies and organizations over the sovereignty of nation states. Yeah? United Nations enthusiasts, NATO, which I support, but European Union, etc., etc. And in direct inverse opposition to that, Reform are basically the anti-globalization party. And you might as well name yourselves that, because that's what those two are, right? The SNP went from being the Scottish National Party to the Scottish Progressivist Party. They don't seem to understand that you can't have an independent state where one ideology rules all the time. But they seem to want a Scotland which considers itself morally superior because the left is victorious. And they've pushed sustainability, diversity and inclusion stuff, critical race theory ideology, genderism, and then you have the Greens, which I call the Watermelon Party. They look like green on the outside, but as soon as you dig into them, they're red as Marxists, cultural Marxists. They've done something very dangerous in my opinion. They have intentionally stoked ethno-religious divides in Britain to gain a base outside their base of Brighton, but also to gain notoriety, and it's worked. They've won a sweep of councillors in Muslim areas. But now they're in a bifurcated, are they going to be a Muslim party? Or are they going to be a party for hippie vegan extremists? Because those two are not compatible long term. One will eat the other, eventually. So I find that very fascinating. So let's look at my prediction. How many seats do I think these parties are going to win? My predictions are as follows. Part of this is just making a record for a future. What do I think is going to happen? So the Green Party, Gwyrdd in Welsh, is green. 2, I think they'll hold Brighton, and they might win something else by stoking ethno-religious divide and pitting social groups against each other with this weird victimhood, oppressor-oppressed dynamic. Enough people are naive enough to believe in it, so they might get 2 seats. Plaid will get, in my opinion, 4 seats. They'll pick up Sirgar, Gweneddanismon Ceredigion. And yeah, I didn't mention them when I was talking about the parties, did I? Because, well, they've literally done the same thing for 50, 60 years now. Slightly left, sometimes skewing a bit further left. Culturally progressive, kind of imitating Labour when they can. Not really offering an alternative ideology to Labour, but a different flavour of Labour's ideology. And I call them the Llywelyn Fawr Party, not because of their geography, which covers most of Llywelyn the Great's former kingdom, but because what Llywelyn the Great did was imitate a larger power of his day in architecture, policy, and government to sustain his own status quo within his lands. And that's exactly what Plaid Cymru have done. They've literally imitated Labour and the left for 2 generations without any original ideas about ideology. And it'll work. I mean, it'll keep the 4 seats. But you can't grow with that kind of idea. You have to do something new that's not culturally left-wing in order to break out of that. Which is why Llywelyn the Great went to war. Burn down Caerffili. Sorry. Reform. People have every right to be angry that the Conservatives lied to them about Brexit. So the Conservatives and Reform go hand in hand, because what Reform is saying is we'll give you the Brexit and the principles that they promised you but didn't give you. And the Tories are saying we just want to lower taxes, though Reform's saying that too. But they're also saying they want PR, proportional representation, votes, which would change everything, because they're the first true right-wing party of any big impetus to say that. And the Tories are Maen Cachu Trons. That's Welsh for they're shitting their panties. And I think Reform could get 4 seats. That would shake the Tories to their core, because we live in this first-past-the-post system where our votes don't really count. So to change that, it takes an astounding underswell of anger. And people are really angry out there that the Brexit they were promised was used by the Conservatives to not lower immigration, but to bring in and change the type of immigration, to bring in hundreds of thousands of people a year now from North Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia, which, I mean, it's changing our culture already. You've seen that with the Green Party. It's evident. So even in seats where the Reform Party doesn't win, you're going to see an upswing. And that's going to hemorrhage the Tories. The Scottish Nationalist Party has become the Scottish Progressivist Party. They're going to get hammered. I mean, they're going to go from 43 seats down to 29 seats, I think. It may be even worse than that. because they imposed gender ideology on people, sustainability, critical race theory. I mean, it just goes on and on. They put a man in office, not for the merit and worth of his good character, but for the color of his skin. I mean, it's patronizing and racist, frankly, to say that, oh, look at us, we've got an ethnic minority leader, aren't we good? That's so racist. It's disgusting. Why even mention his race at all? The Liberal Democrats in Welsh are called a Democratiaid Rhyddfrydol. And I was a member of this party a while ago. I have very liberal sensibilities in some cases. I don't want ID cards. They're going to surge at this election. Huge. My prediction is 51 seats. Because they would get more than that usually, but they're not going to take as much in the Celtic fringe, Wales and Scotland, as they used to. Because they're so afraid of nationalism that they are anti-nationalists, as I said. But they're going to take the base away from a lot of these socially progressive financier types that the Tories appealed to before Brexit. So we're going to see a flipping of the Liberal Democrat base in some areas, from the fringes to the south of England, and a resurgence where they have also historically been strong each time they resurge, which is the English West Country. And they may pull some upsets, I think, historical ones. But I've been a bit conservative and said just 51 seats. They may do a lot better. They may even pull off a stunner and put the Tories in third place, which would be, frankly, the best result for conservatism, social conservatism, because the Tories would have to stop being so socially progressive. However, the Tories, who through the 70s and 80s passed policies which enabled social progressives to become the dominant group, they basically then took over the Tory party and all the major parties, which means whenever the Tories threaten to actually become conservatives, they push away this new base from them into the hands of the Liberal Democrats. The Liberal Democrats are going to do well because there's still a lot of people who are hung up on Brexit. I'm sorry, but it's over. Like, just deal with it. I mean, I voted against Brexit, but come on, it's over. Who cares? Just move on. Tories I put at 110 seats. That would be a catastrophic result for what is traditionally the party of power. And it's because of Brexit. Not because of Brexit, actually, but what kind of Brexit. They promised Brexit, and the people who voted for Brexit wanted less cultural change, fairer economics, lower taxes, and less immigration. The Tories did the opposite of all those things. They brought in people from North Africa, Middle East, and Asia, the exact groups that the people who voted Brexit rightly said, we don't want this. We're afraid of our culture being eroded, so we're voting for this. We want housing. We want our schools to reflect our culture. We want communities that feel united and not disjointed into socio-ethnic divides. And the Tories, in their Thatcherite ideas of, oh, the market just solves everything, gave them a Brexit that was literally the opposite of that. We have hundreds of thousands of people coming in from hostile cultures into Britain now. And I mean, you add up that with 14 years of, well, the Tories haven't done anything. I cannot even name a single thing in 14 years that they've done which has improved my life. Can I? Can you? Not on a national level. Sometimes at a local level, Tories are actually pretty good, but at a national or supranational British level, I can't think of a single thing that Tories have done in 14 years, which is worth anything. Labour 432. That is massive. Massive. It will echo for a generation of change that isn't actual change. They're not promising anything that's going to really affect my life. And in fact, they're completely ignoring all of the major issues and just focusing on like economic stuff. They're not focusing on cultural divides. Labour are going to reset politics in a way that is unexpectedly unstable, because they're going to beat the Tories so badly that it forces them to have a drink of water. It may be the end of the Tories as the dominant force in politics. I don't know. Which brings me to the significance of this. One thing we're seeing in Britain is, in England actually, I'm in Wales, is people willing to vote for parties that are not one of the two traditional parties. We've had 2 by-elections now where the major parties were just obliterated by someone who was not of the dominant two. Sometimes coming in third. I mean, that's unthinkable. That's unthinkable just a generation ago. And it is because our 2 main parties are basically top hat wearers versus 1920s flat cap wearers. You know, the proles versus the bourgeoisie. I mean, who thinks like that anymore? It's like, it's archaic. It's like labor unions versus the landlords. I mean, like, really? We're not living in a Victorian soap opera. It's not, like, that world's gone. No one thinks like that anymore, except weird Marxist people eating granola in the Green Party. So people are looking for other voices, like the SDP, which I think they're interesting. They're like, every policy they make is based upon, will this be good for the family unit? The mom and dad family is the basis of our society, which I think is brilliant. But they're in North England. I can't vote for them, so oh well. You have the Workers' Party, the anti-Semites. You have the Greens swelling. You have the Reform coming forth that is really strong. And I should note that Nigel Farage, in his campaigns, he's playing music that baby boomers don't like, which is really scary for Labour and the Tories, because they're still competing for baby boomer votes. 65 years after they first reshaped their political machines to suit baby boomers. And we're at the age where their age is ending, and my age, millennials, we're beginning to take over. And the 2 main parties can no longer stop that. This may be the last election, and this is the significance. This may be the last election in which the post-war age has any echo. Because in this election, millennials will decide who wins, and it's not going to be the Tories. I mean, what have they ever done for me in terms of buying a house, getting my car, building a family? I go to a faith group. They've not defended Jews in the last 9 months from these mobs, so why would I ever vote for them again? They've not defended me against mobs who want to kill me. Yeah, I'm a Zionist. If you don't like that, I mean, I don't care. I'm a Zionist. It's not who wins which is going to make this election so interesting. Labour's going to win. There's no real contest. It's underneath that. You're seeing ethnic groups vote for different people along socio-ethnic and religious lines for the first time in Britain in a way that determines who wins, or at all. This is not native to Britain, that people vote along ethnic lines. That's like, what? Yeah, it happened in small groups, but this is revolutionary. North England, watch, the Muslim areas there, you're going to see a massive surge in this bigoted Workers' Party vote and the Greens. Meanwhile, in areas where people feel they're under siege from other ethnic groups, they'll vote for reform. And in Wales and Scotland, where they feel they're under siege from English people, they'll vote for Plaid and SNP. So we're seeing the ethnicization of Britain in this election. And the fact that Labour is going to win does not change that people want change. And he's moving forward toward number 10 on a moderate ticket, which fair, I mean, we do need some calm after the last 14 years of mess. But he's not offering anything that's going to halt and stop the degree of ethnic and social cultural change. He's not going to do anything, really, to halt the growth of radical Islam in this society. He's not going to do anything, really. If he's not going to address massive immigration issues, then the housing crisis is going to continue. He's going to put forward more cultural, progressive, either sustainability, genderism, or critical race ideas, which is going to divide people into groups further. And so I think, because of all that brewing together in a pot, what we're going to see is a backlash build after this election, slowly, because people aren't going to just go back to the Tories again after this 14 years of... I mean, if they do, I'll be stunned, and maybe they'll get in, but Labour's going to change the system to such a degree that I don't know if the Tories can ever have a majority again. This may be the last majority Conservative government ever, which means who's going to take their place? It might just be them. What do you think? What do you think about this prediction? Well, we'll know in a few days how right or wrong I am. But I wonder if reform will stun us all. And if English nationalism, not British nationalism, will finally wake up to the fact that if you invite millions of people into your country who hate your culture, eventually you will die as a people. And I think the English are beginning to wake up.